Joseph Pilates was born in Germany in 1883, but before he passed away in 1967 in New York City, his revolutionary mat exercises that he called contrology were becoming a worldwide phenomenon. Today they're known as Pilates, and Bonnie Weber's going to tell us all about them. We're going to bake a pumpkin almond cake with Margaret Andreas. We're going to study the law of attraction with Coach Edna Valentino, and we're going to find our balance with Dr. Jeff Winkley, all on today's episode of Your and My Fitness RX. We're off to the Pilates Guarded and Personal Training Studio in Wayne, where I'll introduce you to Bonnie Weber, a long-standing Pilates practitioner. Bonnie, it's great to be here today. I know I always hear Pilates, but I don't really have a whole lot of information on Pilates, so let's start with the basics.
The principles? The basic principles are control and concentration, working from your center or your core, precision of movement, flowing and or sequencing movement, and breath pulls it all together.
So now I've heard about the reformer. Explain the reformer to me.
The reformer basically is an apparatus or a piece of equipment that it challenges the body to move more efficiently. It closes the chain and provides a kinetic connection with a spring load, a resistance to work against.
So it's almost like a negative with the normal workout.
Correct. Well, Pilates in general, even on the equipment and mat, it provides, you're working in eccentric tension or lengthening, like an eccentric contraction.
Okay. So now there's all kinds of different Pilates. What kind do you teach?
On the classical form of Pilates, I teach all different pieces or apparatus. Mat, the basic, just body, your body and on the mat.
Okay.
The reformer, the chair, the Cadillac, the spine corrector, and the ladder barrel.
Is there a progression? And do you start with the mat or do you start with the reformer?
Generally, you want to start a client with the fundamentals, which is your body on the mat, yes.
Okay, so it's kind of like a body weight exercise.
Yes, like the mat series is just your body and gravity, and Joseph Pilates always said that was pretty much the best and hardest part of Pilates. The equipment just helps to improve your mat performance.
Okay, so now you were telling me earlier that his brother actually designed and built the reformer for him? How did that come about?
I think that's a whisper down the lane. I did some research on that. His brother apparently was a woodworker. There's so many different stories regarding Joseph Pilates and his past. He did develop the equipment during World War I when he was rehabbing injured soldiers.
I didn't realize it was that old.
Yes, he was born in actually 1880.
Okay.
And died in 1976.
Okay.
But in any case, yes, he developed the equipment using springs from mattresses. And would attach them to beds and or walls and rehab injured soldiers. So that's how the equipment came into development. He was actually rehabbing them manually using his hands and was becoming exhausted.
Okay.
So that is how he came up with the equipment. For the equipment to move people instead of him exhaust himself.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Thank you.
So what are some of the benefits of Pilates?
Decompression of joints, improved posture, stabilization, like an increase in stability, mobility, increase in strength, core strength, of course.
Ages, how old?
Flexibility, range of motion, anywhere from 12 to, my oldest client was 98.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I've learned so much today. Thank you so much, Bonnie.
You're welcome.
Here's our featured workout for today. Mat Basic 5 with Maddie.
This is the 100. Upper ab curl, engage the abdominals, maintain a neutral spine. Reach with the arms as you pump. Roll up, start in a seated position. Roll down, initiating from the abdominals. Articulate the spine. Roll up with an upper ab curl and continue to reach forward as you pull back with your abdominals. Continue to roll back. Relax the shoulders. Single leg circle. Raise one leg out to 45-degree angle. Maintain a neutral spine as you pull back through the abdominals to stabilize the hips, circling from the hip socket. Rolling like a ball. Start on sit bones. Pull belly back to see curved spine. Engage the abdominals as you roll back on the spine, not on the head, neck, and shoulders. Return back to seated position. Spine stretch. Start tall on sit bones. Roll forward, initiating from the crown of the head. Pull the belly back as you articulate the spine forward vertebra by vertebra. Stack tall back to starting position, articulating the spine to seated.
Thanks to Bonnie and Maddie from the Pilates Garden. Here's Dr. Bachevsky on exercise and osteoporosis.
How does exercise help prevent osteoporosis? The devastating effects of osteoporosis include chronic pain, pulmonary issues such as pneumonia and frequent hospitalizations, and of course, bone fractures. We generally associate osteoporosis as a women's disease. However, men also will develop osteoporosis. Regular weight-bearing exercise promotes bone formation, which prevents bone loss associated with aging and osteoporosis. The only way to build bone is to use bone. You need to exercise your bones every day to keep them from becoming brittle. My prescription for good health? A regular regime that includes strength training, 30 minutes of aerobic training, and 10 minutes of stretching. Stay healthy.
We'll be right back with baker Margaret Andreas and her 500-year-old pumpkin almond cake classic. Here's a great classic recipe from the Mediterranean Restaurant and Bakery in Westchester. Let me introduce you to Master Baker Margaret Andreas.
Hi, today I'm going to make pumpkin almond cakes. This is a 500-year-old cake developed by Jewish people in Spain. It's a great cake, really nice and healthy. I'll start with, I have 6 eggs that have been warmed to room temperature, and we will separate each of these eggs. Now I need this other bowl. Excuse me. I should have thought about that. So egg yolks into one bowl, egg whites into the other bowl. Okay, I'm going to start with my egg yolks. I have 6 egg yolks into my mixer. I like to start them at a low speed. In this recipe, I have a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. If I'm going to have any salt in my recipe, I like to add it with the egg because the salt will break up the proteins in the egg yolk. In this recipe, we have a cup of sugar divided into 2 half cups. So a half cup of the sugar is going to go into the egg whites, and the other half cup of sugar is going to go into the egg yolks. And I'm just going to slowly add the sugar into the egg yolks and keep them going until they're really light and lemon colored. My yolks are starting to get really light and pale, and they're getting thicker now, and that's what I want. Now to my egg yolks, I have 1½ cups of pureed pumpkin. In the fall, when pumpkins are plentiful, this is a gooseneck pumpkin, which is more like a butternut squash. I'll roast them, portion them up into plastic containers and freeze them. I'm going to lower the speed and just get the pumpkin into that egg yolk. That's done. And then I'm going to whip my egg whites. All right, now I have my other bowl with my egg whites. The trick with this is basically a meringue. To get a good meringue is the opposite. You think you would put the mixer on real fast to start, but no. The longer you take to whip your egg whites, the better meringue you're going to get. The two things, we're going to add the other half a cup of sugar. So now my egg whites are starting to get frothy. So I'm going to start to infuse the sugar. And then I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. You'll know your meringue is done when there's soft peak, stiff peak. Stiff peak means it's just staying at a point when you shake it. I know my meringue is done. So I have my pumpkin and my egg yolk, my meringue, and then I have here 1½ cups of almond flour. This is a great dessert because it's also gluten-free. Also here I have 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, a teaspoon of ginger, and a 1/4 teaspoon of cardamom. I like the little fruitiness of cardamom, so I'm going to mix them into the almond flour. Now this is going to be a 3-way process here. So I'll start by adding about 1/3 of the egg whites, and then the seasoned pumpkin flour. All right, and there we have our pumpkin meringue. And then for these cakes, I like to take just a little bit of organic sugar, slivered almonds, and I put a little bit of almond extract in here to kick up that almond flavor. Things bake as to their size, so a cupcake will bake in about 15 to 20 minutes, whereas a large torte will take 50 to 60 minutes to bake. So then for a cupcake, I'll just gently dollop these. Now when you have a meringue, it's not going to rise up the same as if you had a cupcake. You can fill that little top. And then here would be a torte. There we go. Yeah, so if I was doing cupcakes, this would make 24. If I was doing, or 1 large torte, or in this case, a dozen cupcakes and a smaller torte. So on the bottom, I had a little bit of almond, organic sugar, and almond extract, and then I'm just gonna finish them off with just a few sprinkles of slivered almonds and sugar. All right, and into the oven they go, preheated 350 degrees. 20 minutes for a cupcake, 40 to 50 for the torte. Nice, we're ready. And here are the almond cakes. The torte will need just a little bit longer.
Dr. Jeff Winkley has an immediate care practice, and we discussed concussions in an earlier show, which affect a lot of athletes. Today, we're going to focus on a problem that can affect our older population: balance. Dr. Jeff, can you explain a little bit more about balance so we have a better understanding?
Well, balance involves 3 systems in our body: our ears, our inner ear specifically, our vision, and our neuromuscular system.
So how does the neuromuscular system affect balance?
Well, there's a very important sense that we have. It's called proprioception. It's the feedback that we get from our limbs that tell us where they are in space, and this helps to affect our sense of balance.
Okay. You were saying reflexes play a big part in balance.
Have everything to do with it. Reflexes are very important in helping us to maintain appropriate balance.
And could you explain a little bit more about the reflexes?
Well, reflexes are things that happen at the spinal cord level. They are responses, neuromuscular responses to what's happening with our limbs in space that occur even without us thinking about it. And so you begin to stumble, and things happen to correct that stumble without any conscious effort at all, and that's just purely on the basis of reflex. Also, consciousness comes into it. We now know we're stumbling, and we react as well, but so much of our reaction comes purely from reflexes, preventing us from sustaining injury.
This could be a real problem as we get older. Is there a way for us to train those reflexes, not just our muscles, or?
Yeah, it's very important. And we begin to lose balance in an important way, our sense of balance, starting in our 40s even.
Wow.
Yeah, and this loss of balance may contribute to a very important health issue for older adults, falls that lead to, you know, among other things, there's more than 300,000 hip fractures a year.
Wow.
And that's a very important event in an older adult's life with a high mortality. Many of those people actually die within a year. Somewhere of upwards of 20 to 30% may die from some relationship to that fall and that hip fracture. But yes, we can train our balance as we get older, and there's some common forms of exercise that are being done today that are very helpful in this way. Tai Chi and yoga are very helpful. And if you're an older adult who feels like they're having trouble with their balance, it's very important to bring it to your doctor's attention. And physical therapy is very useful in helping us with these balance issues.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Jeff. That was a lot of good information.
You're welcome.
There are things that we can do to improve not just our physical balance, but the balance in our lives as well. Take, for example, the law of attraction. I was fascinated when Coach Edna Valentino explained it to me. So how does the law of attraction apply to making us happy?
Well, first of all, the law of attraction is not about bringing couples together.
I didn't think so.
Right. The law of attraction is really what you think about in your mind, you bring about in your life. What you think about, you bring about.
Okay.
And it's a great catchy phrase to really sum it up for us. So if you tend to focus on the negative things that are happening in your life, you're not making enough money, you're not in the job that you really want, you aren't having good family relations, maybe with siblings or something like that, you're going to bring on more negativity.
And that's how most of us think.
And that's how, yes, because that's the problem. So you tend to focus on the problem. What we don't tend to focus on as much is what's working right in our lives. If you focus on the positive things that you have, even in the midst of all the problems, we all have problems and we all have good things happening too. And if you focus on the good things, you actually perpetuate more good to come into your life. So you end up attracting more of the positive things. But there's one thing that I think people sometimes miss with the law of attraction. So what you think about, you bring about. But you also have to genuinely feel the feelings behind what it is that you want.
Oh, explain that.
Yes, and this is really key with the law, because you can say out of your mouth that you want anything in your life, and if it doesn't show up, it doesn't show up. And there's no time frame. So if you're saying, I want that new position, or I want that new car or house, it could be material, it could be relationships, whatever it is that you want, you have to feel like you already have it. Like every cell of your body knows that you want that job or you want that relationship, and you have to really feel like the money is already in your bank account, like the relationship is, you're already having it. And the way you do it is to behave that way towards the other relationships you already have in your life. You know, you have to behave as if it's already happening to you, that you feel it. And sometimes that's hard. You know, what you have to do is feel as much as you can now. If you've never had it, let's say you want a certain salary. If you've never had that, it might be hard to really connect to what it feels like if you were living on that salary. do the best you can, or find a role model or somebody who is living that way and behave like them. Just say, the money's already here, I've got it, it's awesome, this is what I do with it, this is how I behave if I had the money. And slowly you start feeling like you already have it, and you start getting a little bit more clear on making that connection between the feelings and what you're thinking about.
Okay.
That's really the key behind it. And the thing is that people want it overnight. Doesn't usually happen that way. Your mind, the universe does not know the difference between what you're imagining and what is real, between imagination and reality, I always say.
Okay.
So get it in your head first, put the feelings behind it, the universe connects with it, and you start bringing that into your life. It's really that simple, but you have to stick with it. You can't interrupt that positive thought process by going back to the problems of what's happening in your life. You interrupt that process, it doesn't show up for you. And that's really the basis of the law of attraction.
That makes sense. So positivity, that
Breeds more.
wow, something to think about.
Yes, it sounds like a simple concept, but not always easy.
Thanks so much, Edna.
Many of life's failures are people who had not realized how close they were to success when they gave up. Which begs the question, I wonder where we would be today if Thomas Edison had given up. Think about it. Maybe no phonographs, no light bulbs, just to name a few of his great inventions. But now it's time for us to go, but not give up. So here's this week's exercise of the week. It's an advanced mountain climber combo. Thanks for the demo, Tom. Till next week, be fit, be healthy, be happy.